You're right, guys. We're on a video podcast. We're not quite sure what we're going to call this yet. Maybe videocast, maybe debates. Actually, we might, don't know, Michaela can decide this. We might call it both. Because why? Vivek is here. You can see all of our videos, but not Vivek's.
I'm being mysterious.
Vivek is being mysterious today.
I'm naked.
Sorry?
I'm naked. I'm actually naked, that's why.
That's it. I knew it all along. Vivek's got a new masterpiece. He's going to present himself. Vivek, I love the way you said you spent so long being quite quiet and not being able to get your feelings and thoughts out. And now it's the other way around. You're like, right, I'm going to say all my thoughts, but no one's going to see my face.
Definitely.
That's it. Yeah, I will probably have edited your face in, so people can see your face. They just can't see your mouth moving.
It's pre-recorded.
Sorry?
I'm not really here, I'm pre-recorded.
That's it! We're talking to a pretend Vivek. All his thoughts. Right, so I was going to suggest we go around each... Vivek, we already know... by the way, this is the first episode, actually, so maybe we should just do, hello, I'm Peter, you know me, blah, that kind of stuff. Michaela, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks for throwing me in at the deep end. Yeah, I'm Ricarda. I am 25. I live in Northern Ireland with my mad crazy family, so Corbell's Ring. That'll be one of them. And I have SMA. I've been involved with muscle art for about 2 years.
Yeah, well, it's 2 years now since it started up as a little Twitter feed.
Yeah, that's me.
Simon, do you want to say hey?
Hey, yeah, basically that's how to say. Basically, I'm someone. I have congenital muscular dystrophy, and I don't know what I'm doing. Basically, I'm just here to. I'm just here to help. Well, yeah.
Sarah, you're joining us today.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm 26, and I've got congenital too, and that's it, really.
Yeah, the first time we've had two people with congenital muscular dystrophy on the show.
Yay!
I'm liking this.
It was.
Yeah, Solomon's always waving the flag for
Trying to, not succeeding, but trying to.
So yeah, I'm Peter. I started Muscle Owl a couple of years ago, and we get more people involved in everything. My brother has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I worked for Muscular Dystrophy UK for many years, and I don't know. I enjoy being part of a community, so all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Vivek, you've more or less given an introduction.
Yeah, well, I'm Vivek. I've got Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I'm 26. Well, I just turned 26, and I do a lot of blogging for, my own self as well as muscular dystrophy or the Muscle Owl.
Yeah, Vivek, the fantastic writer and speaker, but not a fan of showing the face. Not a fan of wearing clothes.
I've actually bought a webcam right now, so...
Wow, amazing. That's why he's out in Asda buying webcams. Right, so today we were going to talk about, well, in fact, I think we can be open about this, that, I mentioned us doing the video casting a few weeks ago, or in fact, a couple of months ago, first started thinking through it. And our idea was, because Solomon, you speak about this a lot, our idea was to make the first episode about inspiration porn, because we wanted to, these debates, obviously we will still be carrying on with the podcast. We have a lot of listeners that, we're not going to stop the podcast. But we will probably make the podcast about more of the stuff we do where we just chat and have a laugh with each other and maybe do weekly updates and that kind of thing. And we will be keeping this video medium as a sort of medium where we can discuss important topics out in the open and maybe have more people on and everything. And again, video medium, easiest and best to share at the moment. So that's what we're going to be working with. Basically, this new film came up, Me Before You, And, well, Michaela, you've been talking a lot about it. Michaela had an article in The Independent the other day. So we said, actually, this links quite well to inspiration porn because it's kind of like how disability is represented in the media, how people view it. Is it something that people want to look at and go, or is it something that we're going to talk about properly and actually, do people have sort of a moral, or do filmmakers and anyone who's a content producer have a decent moral responsibility to putting stuff out there? So, yeah, I don't know. Michaela, do you want to bring it in?
Yes, I suppose it's a tricky topic because we've got Me Before You, which is something that has garnered a lot of traction very quickly. And from the outset, a few of my friends have been really upset against it, and I've kind of stood back and watched for a while. And the more I've watched, the more I've not liked about it. And I think primarily because of the premise of the fact that, withholding spoilers, that it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well for the disability community as we understand it now, but it also doesn't end well for the characters in the book. So I think the premise of that grates on me a little bit, and it frustrates me that we're still in a mindset where the non-disabled community at large can believe that disabled lives are worth less than non-disabled ones, and that's where my frustration begins.
If we just put it out there straight away, the film is about, do you want to give the premise of the film, what the film is about, what the book,
Yeah.
Film based on a book?
The basic idea of the film, then, if we go back, is Will is paralysed from a spinal cord injury, which leaves him sure and dependent on everybody else for everything else, other than speaking and thinking. He hires Lou as a carer, but she is actually hired on the premise of suicide watch. Isn't told that when she finds out, then she sets about trying to make sure that Will doesn't follow through with what's in the tests and to show him that life is worth living. That obviously doesn't come off, and that, in a nutshell, is the course of the film. There's a lot within it. I haven't read the book because I don't particularly want to read the book. I will go and see the film because I think it's important that we expose ourselves to at least one or the other, if not both, to fully make a decision. But it's without a doubt something that's problematic and worrying.
Yeah. My feeling is I've read large bits of the book. For me, it's just one of these kind of rubbishy books for a normal person who just wants to read a book, and actually, not very great insights to disability and everything else. My concerns are that it uses disability as a sort of a
plot device.
Sorry?
A plot device.
Yeah. Exactly. If we start on that, what is your, and in fact, we'll say first, because we do think it's very important to watch the film and then give our view as well. This is the first sort of like a pre-watch, like what we think about disability in the media in general and in Hollywood, and what we think of the premise of Me Before You, and well, what we think as well it could do to sort of save itself, in the film, the things that maybe might make it okay. Sorry, Vivek, you were saying?
Yeah, it's more used as a plot device rather than enhancing the character. The character is more, he's just a disease rather than an actual person who happens to have a disability.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I saw, Sarah, you touched on that with one of the drawings that you put out of the grave. And what was it?
It says, disposable disabled guy, beloved plot device.
Yeah, beloved plot device. Solomon, I don't know if you've seen that drawing, but it's something that you'd like.
Go check it out.
Essentially, Solomon, I don't know how much you've seen on the film, but basically,
I read a lot about it. I haven't actually seen it, but I've read.
And what are your views?
I don't know. I'm just thinking, well, if it is true or what I've read, then it's just really irritating that a disabled person is not meant to be either you're dead or you're in a wheelchair. There's a ground actually, and I have a scenario about this on Friday. I went to a wedding, and Asian weddings, Southeast Asian weddings, are like the worst because disability is still quite a taboo subject in Asian thing. And so I met this guy. God knows who he was. No idea. And so you get that whole. It's really hard to explain. And Tanvi is the only one that knows this, and understands it really well. But Asians, you can't just say, "Oh, you're gonna get better one day. You'll be fine, walking one day." And
that's ridiculous.
It's quite funny, and it's just, I don't really care. But it's just okay, see you later, bye. And so there's that kind of thing. The way society sees disabled people is just that when they're not meant to be, either we're dead or we're not. That to me, being in a wheelchair is the best thing I ever had.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to get free parking. We can't get away with that.
Free parking.
You get to skip the
you jump at Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Straight in.
And I can drive. I can scare old people. I can drive really fast. What else could you want in life? Seriously.
Run people over.
Well,
I don't do that.
They say sorry to you.
that's the thing for me as well. For me, the film hinges on this, device of how does it put across? Because again, it's plot spoiler here. The guy wants to commit suicide, and he does go ahead and commit suicide in the end. Over in Switzerland, I think. It's tricky because I say, well, look, actually, people should be able to do all the things that an able-bodied person can do, and committing suicide, ending one's life, is one of them. But we have a duty not to represent those ideas in society, because they're quite simply not things that we need, that we should be putting out in a positive or a realistic or a natural light, really.
I think it's quite difficult because I know with certain disability that, for example, like motor neuron disease, that the people in I've never ever been in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
The person I'm in such extreme pain that a single hair on my skin causes me extreme pain. So
you understand that.
It's very, very difficult for me to say that I think it's okay, but I think part of the thing is, well, myself personally, I've got a fantastic support network. I've got amazing friends. I've got a really good family, and so that's part of the thing. A lot of disabled people don't actually have that in terms of a support network, and so that's part of the thing as well. Yeah. And so I've always been quite a person that just wants to get on with life and just challenge society and just do my own thing. Really, it's not.
So I feel like we could draw sort of two lines here between disability and suicide, between those who might want to end their lives because they're disabled and in pain, severe pain, or those who are disabled and simply just view the idea of not being able to walk, run about, live a normal life, live normalcy as the reason why. And I think the real bad plot device on this is that apparently he does want to commit suicide because he feels like he's a burden on other people and he feels like his life's not worth living. It is the mental aspect, and that's something that I really do feel we need to deal with.
Yeah, because I was talking about this quite a lot on the podcast and with you and Makeda. Disability and mental health is not even spoken about, is not nothing is there to support just the fact that you have a severe disability. So I think it's quite important. That's quite a problem. Society really puts that pressure on you as a disabled person that it costs this much to take care of you. It's this much, you need this equipment, you need that, you need this accessible transportation. It's all crap, to be honest. And so basically society needs to get over themselves, and we need to have more advocates for disabled people, and they need to all work together as the disabled community to challenge stupid views, and in terms of actually work together how we can, help each other and make the world a better place, really. I think it's important just to to collaborate in that sense.
Sarah, is that your, because you've been very vocal on the topic online, on Twitter and everything else, is that your main concern with the film? The fact that the protagonist, who is the guy with the disability, is very negative, and if we're going to have a character with a disability, that, you know, that person should be presenting views of the disabled community and presenting views.
I think mostly the problem for me is that this isn't really like a new story. It's like this is something we're seeing over and over and over and over again. So it's like it's not this one movie that's the problem. It's the fact that yet again it's another movie with this particular character showing exactly what we've seen before about being unhappy and about feeling that you've got no options. And I read the book yesterday to make sure I could really talk about it properly. And the whole book is just about how he doesn't have any options. I think it's like quite a bad thing to present the idea that the only real choice he has in life is whether he lives or dies. That's basically what the book says, that like he doesn't have a choice of where he lives or what he does day to day, or even down to like what he eats. Like he has no choices, and he says at the end of the day the only choice he has in life is whether he lives or dies. And I think that's a really bad message to tell anyone.
Does that actually represent the oppression that we face in society every day? Because there's an argument as to whether, from the non-disabled community, as to whether the disabled community are oppressed. But actually, are we oppressed in that sense? That actually, I would almost say, is a good thing, because it shows the oppression that we can face, and some people do. It doesn't happen to everyone, and I think that's a really important thing. The book may represent a real story for somebody, or elements of a real story for somebody, but the fact of the matter is, why is it so acceptable to portray it over and over again like it's the majority when it's not? And that's where
because that is sort of, I love film, I love arts and everything else, and I think that whenever we put forward an idea in art, there is that idea being put forward, and then there is the audience's response to that. So we can put forward a very negative idea on something that another character might show us that actually this idea is false.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about how is this guy's ideas? How are these guys' ideas represented? If this guy's ideas are represented to be like, no, this is not. Come on, this is not the way it is. He's only thinking this because he was a small-minded rich guy who, didn't open his mind to everything. But if the audience ends up empathizing with him and going, no, actually, I can understand, it would be crap having that life, then I think we've got severe problems on our hands. So for me, it's most important about how it comes across rather than the actual plot topic itself, if you see what I mean.
It looks a bit like the film is just focusing on the shallow aspects rather than diving down deep to the character and the feelings. That maybe that there are positive things. I think that's more the problem. The thought behind it wasn't very deep.
Yeah, Sarah, you've read the book beginning to end. What do you think that the author Jojo Moyes has done that you wouldn't have done? How would you have changed the book to make it more positive to society that needs to really adapt itself and its ideas of what disability is about?
Well, I'm not really sure what you could have done aside from, not killing him in the end.
Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. If she doesn't kill him in the end and he goes, you know what, actually, I'm going to live this wonderful life. And it is this journey through realizing of the value of his life, then I feel it's a different story.
But the thing is, the book isn't really, like, I was reading it and I was feeling like Will doesn't really add anything to the book. He's not really, apart from like being a bit sarcastic and being depressed, he's not really a well-rounded character at
No.
all. He's very, very shallow, and it's very much from Louise's point of view, and like he doesn't have a chapter. He doesn't actually get a voice. It's all from the able-bodied people's perspectives, like right down to Louise's sister, who isn't really like, obviously she's impacted by what's happening because it's her sister, but she's not really an important character, but she gets a voice where Will doesn't. So it's not really like, for me it felt like the book wasn't really for us. It's for non-disabled people, and then that's a problem in itself, because it's not really like a representation for disabled people.
And that's the point in itself, I think as well, that if there's a book for non-disabled people about that sort of focuses on disability, it needs to be from Fault in Our Stars, kind of viewpoint, where it really is that voice, but it is catered for, and Solomon might say in some aspects inspiration porn or whatever. But I feel inspiration porn is fine if it is able to change and positively inspire the of the non-disabled community. And I mean that's so key for me. Obviously I read probably half of it, and that what you were saying is exactly how I felt. I didn't know if his character did further develop. I just haven't read it all for time reasons, but and also because I really did find it not the most interesting book. But I mean, I didn't know if she would take him on a journey to opening up and to being more developed, but it doesn't seem that's the case, and that is worrying for me. Vivek, do you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I do think I agree with that. I've not read the book, but I've seen the trailer, and I think for me, there needs to be in development of positivity as well. If it's just blanket negativity, that's a problem, because to me, being disabled it's not really an issue in my life. Quality of life's there because I got a lot of interest in things. And I think if disabled people were portrayed realistically in the film, I'd probably enjoy it. But the thing is, it's just not, it doesn't make you feel happy to be disabled. You can't I'm starting to think that, I should go to Dignitas or something at the end of the film,
And that's the important thing in society. Yeah, sorry, Mike, go on.
Yeah, no, a friend of mine, I won't name them because they are pretty well known, but they were once approached in the street and asked if they were booking a place in Dignitas because they have motor neuron disease. And that really shocked me. And I was like, why does somebody who knows this person as an acquaintance think it's all right to ask them if they're booking a place in Dignitas? And he was really angry. He turned around and said, this isn't right. He said, I'm not booking a place in Dignitas. I really enjoy my life. I love my life. I love my kids. I love my life. Why would I do that? And it really frustrated him that he was expected to do that purely because of his diagnosis, regardless of what he had to live for in life. And that is where the danger comes in. That's why this film is so dangerous, and that's why this book is so dangerous. It's going to advocate the fact that this is acceptable. That people can't come up to me in the street and say, hey, when are you going to go to Dignitas? It's wrong.
Bullying.
We wouldn't do it to a disabled person.
Not even saying it, but assuming it. And the great dangers in society we see through arts and through politics is not, you see, this is why I'm not against hate speech, because I would far rather people say ignorant things than just simply keep them in their little brain boxes. Because this is the worrying thing, is now that people will see you, Michaela, and think, oh, well, you know, I saw that film the other week and relate what that guy in that film thinks about his this bizarre negative things about his disability. Assume that you, or not even assume, but like almost very much ignorantly believe that that is what you feel too. And that's that's a really, and that's in that respect, even though the film isn't out until next week. I feel that that's where I take my hat off to the disabled community in opposing it, because it's very necessary that the disabled community can say, as a majority, as a whole, we do not, this is not how we feel. This is not representative of us, regardless of how the film shows, whatever happens. This is not the idea and the way we feel.
Yeah,
And the other issue I found is that the character playing the disabled person wasn't disabled.
It's another talking point in itself. What's your view on that, Vivek?
Well, I think I don't really mind if it's played by an able-bodied person, but I'd like to know that they'd have talked to a disabled person first, just to kind of get to know the character a bit more, not just sit in the chair and pretend.
Yeah, well, I saw a lot of questions to him like, oh, what did you have to do? Was it hard to play this role and all these other things? And that's what we mentioned too with Eddie Redmayne, who in The Theory of Everything. That was a very, I feel that was a very different role, because there's a lot of parts in that, more half the film he plays standing up. This, from what I've read in the book, it doesn't seem like there can be much of the film that he plays standing up, unless they do a very bit scene at the beginning. I saw our friend Ravi commented on Trailblazers saying, well, actually, how many disabled actors are there?
Yeah.
And I guess that's a thing in itself. And again, I always say it's a product of modern society that we always want to cut things right at the end, the leaves or the twigs. We really need to look at the roots, and we really need to, and I think we almost do need to start at the end for this to be able to doctor things at the roots, because it's never going to get hit at the root if Hollywood really aren't ever pushing it forward at the end.
Can I add something? I think that's something, the misconception that society keeps telling us, oh, we can't find the disabled actors, this, that, the other. I think there's a huge issue that one, like your brother Peter, he's an amazing Shakespearean comedian, right? And another thing that I picked up with you months ago, I don't know if you guys have seen that show, See Here, on the BBC, for deaf people.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And so they were showing like a New York play and Broadway.
Michaela laughing. What's Michaela?
I'm trying to sign, but I can't. I was going to try and sign love, but I can't because my hand's crossed. I was going to attempt some ASL there, but it didn't work.
Sorry, Solomon, carry on. Michaela will sign at the end of the show.
Cool. I was just saying that they were showing like I think it was a musical or something that is really been sold out and it's been getting a lot of positive reviews, and that half the characters were deaf, the other half of the characters were not, and so they were using sign language throughout the entire play, and that really resonated with the audience and the reviewers, and it was really positive. And I really saw the interview where they were interviewing the cast members, how they found it quite difficult to start with, to get the cues right and to interact, but then over time they actually learned to do different signage, different writing, different cues, so they know when to sign and when not to sign. And it was really interesting. So I think people are out there, but they don't have the opportunities. I don't think it's like the right support. There's plenty of people like our friend Matilda, who's an amazing playwright. She would be a really good person to get in touch with in terms of getting actors and actresses together, and in terms of how it, I think this stuff that the media keeps saying that, oh, there's not enough people, there's not enough disabled actors. Pressure, they're out there. You just have to know, you have to have the opportunities and the right support.
But that's the thing as well. I think in a year where we have seen so much, so many protests about black people getting Oscars, and there's now an inquest or an inquiry into, sort of sex selection, whether, women are getting paid as much as men in sort of, gender roles in Hollywood, that actually we're still spouting out films where disabled people are being played by non-disabled people. And a lot of the time, the reason behind it is, well, actually, we don't actually give opportunities to these actors, so we don't have any.
Did you guys see that? I think it was in the article that Lauren wrote. Did you guys see that for the Huffington Post? Basically, I think it was in that which was saying that there's a lot of people that, particularly in Hollywood, they go, there is too much trouble to support a disabled person on set. For example, with their carer or make it accessible, then you have to go to the sets team and do this. So that, and to me, that's obvious. I think it's just an excuse. I think it's just about changing attitudes and saying, actually, this is not acceptable. We need to work together, you know. And we discussed this before on the, also, it would be great if it was just a disabled person in a film or a TV show. It just happens to be, then they say, hey, and that was it, basically. And build it up rather than...
Or they're always talking about their disability. It's always someone who's just, or there's a reason why they're in a wheelchair. Like, it's a token, oh, they've broken their leg. So, for a few weeks, they're in a wheelchair.
Exactly. I think it's quite important just to have...
Oh, and there's always the storylines. It'd be Grange Hill or something.
Yeah.
That there would be the moment of sort of discrimination against, oh, I can't get up steps. Oh, now I know what it's like to be disabled.
Exactly.
All these tired storylines, and it's like I said to Michaela in one of our first podcasts that we did about it way back when with you, Solomon. Like I said, I just want to see someone in a wheelchair, and it's never mentioned. It's just like, you all right? How's it going? Yeah, I'm not bad. You. Like, it just doesn't happen.
That's a really funny thing. Ryan Murphy, who was the guy behind Glee and American Horror Story, once said that if he was going to cast another disabled character, it would end Glee. It would have to be not because of their disability, it would just have to be, and their character would be about everything else and not their disability specifically.
That's amazing.
Which is where we want to get to. But Ryan Murphy is, over and over and over again, he is not seen as good within the disability community. But when I sit down and think about it, actually what does he do? He casts disabled actors and disabled roles. He doesn't allow non-disabled people to play disabled characters. He ensures that ableism isn't swept under the carpet. He shows it bare face. He mightn't do what he should with it. He mightn't challenge it. He mightn't show it positively. But what he certainly does do is show us how not to do it and make sure that it's obvious that we sympathise with, quite often, with the disabled characters, and often against other disabled characters, if you like. And I get that. I like that whole idea that it can be not about the disability, but actually about everything in general. And the disability be a small part of that.
That's what we want. Sarah?
Well, I don't think non-disabled playing disabled characters isn't like inherently bad, but I think that isn't the only time we're seeing it done. So that's kind of, it's slightly irrelevant, but not. Like in this case, it does show him being hit by the car, but the author said that was important because people are non-disabled people see disability as like other, and they had to show him as not disabled for the audience to not see him as other, which I don't really know how she can say that with a straight face.
Yeah.
So
that's one of my main worries as well with disabled representation, is that people consistently think that they need to be able to relate to it because you were once like me. Michaela, you were never like me. I can't relate to that. And that takes away from the fact that we are all human.
Yeah.
That's. So
I was born on the planet Zerg.
We're not another species.
Sorry, Vivek.
We're not another species.
But that's the thing, it's that separation, and that's what really hit me about this film, is that actually it isn't about a disabled person. It really isn't. It's about this dude who becomes disabled, and if he is shown that he can live a good life with a disability, then we have a decent film on our hands. But if it's this, if one start off we feel like, oh, he's like us. He walked around doing his thing. And then, boom, car crash. He's not like us. What's his reaction? This, whatever it'll be, this will probably be my reaction too. Oh, he wants to kill himself. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll probably want to kill myself too. How does he go about it? Oh, no. And kills himself. Right, there we go. Disabled shit. I don't want to be... And that's like, oh... Because it's all so it's so linear, and you know that's not the way the world works. That's not the way people or humans are. Like we're all blah, 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 and we need
even disability isn't linear.
And also, you can flip it around, saying able-bodied people aren't relatable to disabled people.
Yes. What he's saying is what I said the other week. I look at people who can walk and I'm like, what a weird thing to do.
There you go. That's the thing. But I think as well, we've got to realise that this is the thing as well, Sarah, that I was hitting on with what you said, is that we've got to realise it's not A and B. It's not 0 and 1. It's not disabled, not disabled. Like, we are all disabled in different ways. Like, there is no, you know, the most normal person you could meet is probably a really boring guy. Like, you know, or woman, just saying. But, like,
yeah. His name's Peter Duffy.
And Mr. Normal. No. Well, there you go. There are so many different types of disability and so many different types, you know. So I think this runs the dangers of making disability seem like this one thing and this one negative and one bad thing. And that's the thing. She might not have written it with that intent, but I say the same thing about comedians. Comedians who might tell racist or sexist jokes, you know, they might not, it might be intended in a certain way, and if you're clever and intelligent, you'll go, oh yeah, well, of course he means this. But oftentimes they will say it to a stupid audience, an ignorant audience who might be racist themselves, and they will laugh at it for a different reason other than it was said. And if you watch a film and take something from it as a collective for a different reason than it was actually meant, then it's dangerous for society. So, yeah, you know, we mentioned before, they would have, you know, Laurence Olivier played a black, what's the dude, a fellow.
I know who you mean,
back in the 1950s. And, you know, like, that was normal back then. And obviously it's not today. Why was it normal? Well, was it normal because there weren't that many black actors? Or was it normal because it was deemed acceptable for that to be done? You know, I can't draw an exact parallel with disability, but, you know, there's certainly some.
I think the big thing that we need to remember is that disability needs to become normal. And it won't become normal until we start addressing the realities of everyday life, the whole spectrum of the disability community. And right now we're only looking at one little tiny patch that are the minority who becomes disabled. There are thousands of us in the UK that are disabled from the get-go that, all right, it might worsen over time, but generally speaking, there's an awful lot we've lost before we've even begun. And that brings about a whole different mindset. It's like me, I've never really had the ability to do that much, other than sit on the floor and fall over. So that brings about a different experience than someone like Vivek, maybe who was able to walk at the beginning and then couldn't. So it all changes depending on what happens to you in your individual circumstance. But because we're not dealing with it as normal, we're dealing with it as this alien thing that we don't quite know what to do with, the ball's dropped and we do something completely wrong. And that's where our problem lies. We're not treating it as normal.
I think hitting right back to this film, the most important thing for me that I've noticed is, you know, reading through the premise of the film, and I go, okay, I understand why this is bad now. But the reason why I think there's the reaction that there is because there are not a lot of films about disability in society. One a year, maybe. And if this film was one of 10 or 12 big ones this year, then I think it would be absolutely fine. It would be fairly representing maybe a portion of people with a disability who do want to end their lives. And fine. If the other 12 or the other 11 were about people, the other, majority of people with a disability, then fine. I think that it disproportionately represents attitudes to disability in society by being the only big headliner film, and I think that's the problem that we see. I mean, I'm trying to draw racial parallels, but I won't. But if there was a film that badly badly represented a certain race in society, then there are lots of films that do that, but on the whole, most films fairly represent them. So that's fine, and I think that that's the most important thing that we realise.
Yeah, I think if I think back at the films that I've seen this year, I've seen X-Men yesterday. I saw Zootropolis, and those two films stand out to me for really stupid reasons, so bear with me. If you look at Zootropolis treated the predators as supreme, and predators, whatever the prey, as not supreme and a bit soft and a bit like a hippie, if you like. I remember watching that film and thinking actually there's a few disability parallels there. They're a bit more complicated, so we won't touch them. But if we look at X-Men, and you've got Professor Xavier, who is a disabled actor, which is fine for one part. I really don't care. As much as it should be a disabled actor, it's not. And James McAvoy has played a phenomenal role in Asylum Dancing back in the early 2000s, which is a whole other topic in itself, so we'll leave that to later. But he plays Xavier, and he tells the students it's never a gift in the beginning to be a mutant. And I came away and I thought, actually, he has a point. It's never a gift in the beginning to be a mutant. Where is the social rehab? Where is the mental social rehab to teach you how to live? Because if you've been born disabled, you've been taught how to live a particular way. If you're born able-bodied, you're taught how to live a particular way. And the two don't overlap at all. They are completely different worlds. But also, if you're born disabled, how does that become a gift? And it probably has in some respects for me. And then at times it doesn't be because things are wrong. You get sick, you get ill, your treatment plans don't work. And then it's not so much of a gift at that point. But you are given this really unique thing of living life in a very unique way, and everybody has it, they just don't know how to unlock it. And I really do firmly believe that everybody is some sort of a mutant in that sense.
Yeah.
And that I came away yesterday thinking about that and thinking about me before you and thinking, actually, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why can something similar not be done?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think concluding on Me Before You, what would you, maybe if we just go around, Sarah or Solomon, whatever, what would you say in terms of the premise on the film? How would you counter that as actually, no, this is the truth? What would you say to someone who might be going out to see it and might be influenced by it?
I think it is important to say that we understand this is something that people do feel. We're not saying that nobody feels that way and that nobody tries to obtain what Will did. I think what we're just trying to say is you have to open your mind to the fact that that's not the majority's reality, because that is how people see it. We can't get away from the fact that that is how people see disability, as something to be sad about. That's how, when somebody asks me how I'm disabled or what happened, they're doing it because they think it's a sad thing. And I don't really know how you tell them it's not without representation of it not being a sad thing.
Yeah.
You can't, as much as I say to someone, it's fine, I don't mind being disabled. They look at you I know, but you really do. Why would you not mind being disabled? They don't believe you because they don't know your life. They don't know your day-to-day life. And without representation of that, they're not going to.
Yeah.
Without knowing you as a person.
Yeah.
So that's I would say.
Yeah. Solomon, Vivek.
I think that's good.
No.
Sorry. Go ahead, Vivek.
Vivek, hush! Solomon's talking.
Go
You
ahead,
don't
Vivek.
have a video.
Go ahead, Vivek.
Solomon.
Go ahead, Vivek.
I'm letting you
Vivek's gonna
talk,
laugh now.
Solomon.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. What were you saying, Vivek?
Come on, Vivek.
I was gonna let you finish, Solomon.
Go
Come
ahead.
on, Vivek. Solomon
Go
wants the last word on this. Vivek.
Yeah, well, I just don't really have a lot to say that it's not already been said.
Yeah. All right, stop interrupting Solomon then. Solomon.
Okay. No, I completely agree with Sarah. I think it's until we actually have representation within TV, film, novels, arts, and I think it's not going to change because people will never believe us. Because I've said this over and over, but I strongly believe until that the creative industries, like authors, filmmakers, designers, artists, they actually start from accurate portrayals of disability, then that's not going to change. And that's how society unfortunately gets the information, is through culture. And so until we actually change the culture, we can't actually change society's behavior or the attitudes on disability. And I think another thing that I want to add is that, in that every disabled person, you have, like anybody in society, you have good people, you have bad people. You get disabled people who are complete assholes. You get disabled people who are like...
Solomon says this a lot. I noticed it.
Right?
Go on.
It's definitely
So
nobody...
in fact, Solomon, it's reminded me what you said a few weeks ago. You're like, I can be an asshole too. Yeah?
Yeah.
If I want to.
People don't even know. It's like sometimes you deliberately go out, I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to be an
Exactly. Just like, that when you go out, like, when Peter knows this, that when you go out in London, I'm the one that invites my friends to go out. I'm the one that pays for tickets. I'm the one that's, inviting people
Someone's
to go
always also the person that sometimes pisses people off. Yeah?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And so, it's really frustrating that complete strangers come up to me and they say, assume that the fact that my friends are like so-called my carers and like taking me out and like, oh, it's good to see you out. Oh, it's like they're doing me a favor for getting me out of the house. Like, actually, no, that's not who I am. And I think that needs to change in the media.
I think we could say that there are vulnerable stereotypes in society, and when you're making a film about something that's a vulnerable stereotype, then you get into trouble. And I'm sort of thinking, well, what do we do? How do we combat this? Do we regulate what people can make films and make art about? Well, no, because that's really contra. But when you live in a society that only certain people get to make films because we live in a society around money and profit, then actually that is a sort of regulation in itself. And I feel like we absolutely always need to regulate regulation. We just don't regulate stuff, and it's absolutely free. If all of us wanted to make a film, we couldn't. So that's sorry.
You have to regulate the regulation for the regulation.
Well, that's. Oh, you would actually, wouldn't you? Maybe let's just get rid of it all. Let's just get rid of money, get rid of film budgets, and that's the thing.
Part of the problem is that, particularly when it comes to the disabled community and disabled people in general, the rest of society is so afraid to say anything that they don't say anything. And so, I think, but that's part of the problem. Another thing is that nobody wants to actually say hello to a disabled person or start a conversation with them. That's another thing. And so that's why, as a disabled community, I think it's quite important for us, if we're able, to be quite proactive in society and just interact with anybody and everybody wherever we get to. Sometimes I go up to complete strangers and say hi to them just if they want just to say hi to me. And so I think it just has to change perceptions of what people think about disability. And I think for us as disabled people and as a disabled community, that's hugely important to actually challenge these views and actually say, actually, no, yes, it's not always great, like anything in life, but overall, our life is quite positive. So we're, just getting on the day-to-day life. I think that's something that you don't see in the media, you don't see that in films, in books, and TV shows, and that needs to, and I think that's the only way that we can change if community together, actually, start to challenge these things and actually start those conversations, really. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, that's wonderful. And I think, I think that gives us a great first episode for the pre-watch. I think obviously we'll be discussing lots of other topics probably in between and in and around here. Muscleowl.com if anyone's watching for the first time. Muscleowl on Facebook, that's where we put all our information out. And yeah, if it's your first time watching, we discuss everything from charity fundraising to research for cures for disability to get rid of this terrible thing that people have. But then also politics and discussing disability in society and all the different things.
As well.
So producing our content for charities, producing our content for disability community, and also producing content for the normal person who doesn't know anything about disability that might have their minds changed by a Jojo Moyes film. Come back. So yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts? That's a good round off, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely is.
Thank you all for joining, guys. And like I say, well, if you're watching, if you've got any comments or any questions, feel free to message them in. And check out everyone's different Twitter channels too, and all the different things. Michaela's article was in the Independent yesterday. Have a look at that. That's about the film. And Sarah's doing a lot of great things on Twitter as well, talking about stereotypes in society. And obviously, now I've got to do it. And Solomon's doing loads of creative stuff. And Rebecca's just an all-round awesome dude who can't get a webcam sorted. Right. Right.
Well, if you time travel to tomorrow,
be there on your Amazon Prime. Right, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.